Hello everyone, Teacher Luis one more time, and in today's video I am going to be talking about the difference between using the present perfect tense and the simple past tense. Okay, so pay attention and let's get started. Let's start with these main points and let's talk about what is it that we use the simple past for and what is it that we use the present perfect for. So the simple past is important to remember that we use it when we want to talk about an action that occurred in the past and it finished in the past. Then we have these adverbials of time. We usually mention the specific time when that happened. So we will have words like yesterday, last year, a specific year in 2008, for example. When we use the present perfect, on the other hand, we are talking about experiences, things that we have done at least once in the past, or things that still have some sort of effect in the present. When we use adverbials for the present perfect, then we have words like already, since, for, or yet in terms of the negative statements. Form, they change a lot, right? We have the simple past. You know that there are two different types of verbs, the regular verbs, the ones that end in ed, and the irregular verbs that are verbs that change a lot, or maybe they change a little bit, or maybe they don't change at all. Then for the present perfect, we have the auxiliary, has or have, depending on the subject that we're using. And the verb that we use is the past participle. It's this third column in this list that we always have, that we give out the students for them to remember. I have this timeline in here that I want you to see it as, okay, we're in the present, we are in the now. The simple past occurs in the past. In that timeline, it occurs there and it finished in there. For example, these two sentences that I have, he bought this phone from an antique shop last summer. In this timeline, the action happened, started and finished at that point in time. And bye-bye, that's it. Then I went to Mexico with my family last year is another action that happened in the past, it started in the past, and it finished in the past. Something important about the present perfect is that we don't use the specific time when something happens. So that's why this timeline has this present perfect can occur anywhere in here. We can say the shop has just opened. It means that, and look how this has certain effect in the present because it opened at some point in the past. I'm not specifying when it opened, but that it opened. It's not important. It's just open. That's what is important to me. And it remains open. It's still open. If I say the shop has just opened, I understand that happened in the past and it is still open. Okay, so it has this effect in the present. Then the visitors have arrived. The same. I'm not specifying when they arrived. I'm just saying that that already happened and they are probably still here. So that action does not finish. Okay, it's still in the present. So now in here, I want to give you some examples and the explanation. So example number one, my grandfather repaired his favorite vintage TV model. So this describes a completed event or action that happened in the past. Looking here, I'm not specifying when it happened, but when we think about it, this action repaired, we understand that grandfather started repairing that and it finished. So it's an action that is completed, okay, in the past. The second one says, she was excited to receive a phone call from her friend. When we use was, in this case, is describing a state or a condition that existed in the past. That is saying how she felt. So she was excited means that at that point in time, that's how she felt, okay? Because of the call that she got. Okay, now let's talk about the use of the present perfect, the same thing. We have the examples and then I have the explanation. Number one says, my sister has been a teacher for 3 years. In this case, the action describes a past event or a state that still has connection to the present. Why? because the sister is still a teacher, right? She started working 3 years ago, but she's still a teacher. So that's again what I want to highlight, the fact that the present perfect has effect in the present. John has used a fax machine before. In this case, describes an action by which the precise time is unidentified. So again, in here, we're focusing on the experience. John has the experience of using a fax machine before. And I'm not specifying when he used it, okay? Just that he has done it. Number 3 says, I have just finished reading the novel, and this describes an action that was completed in the very recent past. And this I can relate it or connect it to Spanish when we say acaba. When something acaba. When something acaba, acaba. For example, yo acabo de terminar de leer la novela. That's what it means. In Spanish, we don't use the present perfect for that. In English, we have to use the present perfect to express that idea of acaba. And when we use the word acaba in Spanish, it's because we're talking about an action that actually happened in a very recent past. Okay, now let's talk about the time expressions for the simple past. First of all, I want to highlight the use of last, because one of the mistakes that the students make is that they usually add the at the very beginning. So they use the last Monday, the last year, the last weekend. In English, it's not necessary. Just say last weekend, last year, last week, whatever. Don't add the, all right? Then we have in or ago. Ago is in Spanish hace, okay? And actually, if we follow the grammar structure of Spanish, you say hace 2 días. In English, you have to put those 2 words, dos días, before. Ago goes at the very end. So 2 days ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 months ago, whatever. In, with a number, you can say just a year, right? Like I visited Mexico in 2017. The word yesterday, of course, is the past. You have 2 options in terms of where to place it. You could put it at the very beginning of the sentence, or you could put it at the very end. Now, in terms of writing, if you're going to write at the very beginning, then you have to write a comma, and then you write the rest of the sentence. You have the examples here. I called grandmother yesterday, no comma, it's fine. If you're going to write at the very beginning, then you use, you say, you're right, yesterday, comma, I spoke with my grandmother, okay? Now let's move on to time expressions for the present perfect. Time expressions for the present perfect. Used for with an amount of time. Grandmother has collected funds for a long time. You can change the word a long time for a portion of time. 2 years, for 2 years, for 3 years, for 2 months, okay? Then since, remember that we use it when we want to establish the beginning of that action. So in terms of a timeline, you position yourself into a point, and then you refer to that point. Grandmother told me stories since I was 3. So I'm going back to the timeline where I was 3, and then I'm referring to that specific point. So remember, for is for kind of portions of time, while since you go into the timeline in the past and you position there, and that's when that action started happening. Then we have how long is to talk about the amount of time from the past to the present. How long has it been since we visited grandmother? Hace cuánto, okay? And then always is to show that an action began in the past and continues the present. I have always loved visiting grandmother. Then we use never, and this one is to show the opposite is something that has not occurred in the past, from the past to the present. So it's basically never. I don't have the experience of that. I have never stopped grandmother from telling me stories. I can show you the simple past versus the present perfect and how they differ. A says, when did Pedro live in the UK? And B says, how long has Pedro lived in the UK? 4. So question A with when uses the simple past tense. And this indicates that Pedro lived in the UK some time ago. He is not living in there anymore. While question B, when we use how long, using the present perfect tense, indicates that Pedro lived in the UK some time ago and still lives in there. Okay? He is still living in the UK. Finally, I have this activity, which is simple past or present perfect. So you have A, B, C, A, B, and you have 5 verbs. You have some of them in the simple past, and you have some of them with the present perfect structure. So complete it and bring it to class and let your teacher know of your answers, and then we can give you feedback. Okay, so once again, that's everything for today's video. Go to the Google Classroom, complete the worksheet, and if you have any questions, remember that you can let your teacher know in the WhatsApp group, and we will be more than happy to clarify any doubts that you may have. And important too, make sure that you don't have doubts, because in the class, we're going to put it into practice, all right? Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.